When a man removes his own brother from the road just to possess his brother's wife, can there be any enemy greater than one's own blood? Today's story is based on such a true incident, where a man removed his own brother from his path only to make his sister-in-law his own. So without any further delay, let us begin the real story. It was a remote village in West Bengal. Green paddy fields surrounded the land, narrow mud roads ran through it, and in the distance flowed the gentle murmur of a quiet river. When the sun rose on the eastern horizon, the village seemed to come back to life. The call to prayer from the mosque floated through the mist. In this village lived Abdul Hakim, around 50 years old. To the villagers he was known as just, kind, and firm in his principles. Though he owned land and property, what mattered most to him was people's trust. Hakim's wife Maya was much younger, just over 24. Beautiful, with long hair and a simple face. Yet inside her eyes always hid a strange, deep sadness. Because of the age difference and emotional distance, their relationship was not deeply intimate. Maya was responsible and calm, but inside she constantly felt lonely. Hakim's younger brother Sohel, 27, had grown up in the village. Restless eyes, a clever face. He knew how to adapt to both village and city life. Hakim had raised him since childhood, but deep inside Sohel an invisible attraction was born, toward Maya. At first it was curiosity, then obsession, and finally a sinful, dangerous desire. Sohel's friend Rubel was completely different, honest, hard-working, always walking the path of justice. There was always a light of honesty in Rubel's eyes. He tried to warn Sohel, but Sohel's inner conflict and greed slowly stopped him from listening. Life in the village went on peacefully. Markets, fields, schools. Everything followed its routine. But slowly, unrest began inside Hakim's family. Maya sensed something abnormal in Sohel's gaze. While serving rice in the kitchen, while walking through the courtyard, she constantly felt someone watching her. One day in the kitchen, Sohel whispered, "Sister-in-law, a beautiful woman like you does not belong with an old man like my brother." Maya replied in a trembling voice, "Stop, Sohel. Never say such things again." Inside Sohel, a strange fire ignited. He felt that one day Maya had to be his. To him, his brother Hakim had become nothing but an obstacle. Days began to pass differently. By day, Sohel pretended to be normal. At night, he sat by the river planning his future. At first, Rubel did not understand, but slowly suspicion began to grow in his eyes. Maya became increasingly frightened. Even when trying to sleep, she felt someone standing outside her window. Sometimes watery eyes seemed to peer through the cracks of the door. Yet she did not have the courage to tell Hakim, afraid that if he did not believe her, or if he became angry, the situation would become even more dangerous. And so, behind the mask of village peace, the seeds of sin were slowly taking root. Sohel's inner conflict, Maya's fear, Rubel's suspicion. Together, an invisible pressure was building, and the darkness of night seemed to be waiting for the moment when Sohel would finalize his plans. Inside him, the conflict grew more complex with every passing day. By day, Sohel behaved normally, but at night, sitting alone by the river, all he could see before his eyes was Maya's face. He kept thinking, how could he make Maya his own? Inside his mind there was only one plan. Hakim must be removed. When he tried to sleep at night, shadows of fear stood inside his mind. The thought of killing his brother would not let him sleep. He wondered, can I really do something like this? If I get caught, how will I face the villagers? But slowly his greed began to overpower his fear. One day he wrote in his diary, "Life has no meaning without Maya. My brother is only an obstacle. Remove this obstacle, and everything will be mine." On the other side, Maya was growing more frightened with each passing day. One afternoon she was washing clothes at the riverbank. Sohel approached and whispered, "Why are you here alone?" Startled, Maya replied, "Don't come near me like this." Sohel spoke softly, "There is nothing to fear. I only wanted to help." Maya gathered her clothes and rushed home. From that day on, she never dared to go to the river alone again. Rubel noticed that Sohel was no longer the same. One day he said, "You seem different lately. Is something wrong?" Sohel forced a smile. "No, nothing. I'm just thinking." But in the darkness of night, Sohel's inner conflict deepened even more. He thought, "If I remove my brother, Maya will one day be mine." Fear had to be crushed. Greed had to win. A strange restlessness filled Sohel's mind. Outwardly, he appeared normal, but inside his soul felt trapped in a dark abyss. And at night, Maya cried in silence, her heart trembling with fear. Slowly, Sohel reached his decision. Hakim must be removed. Only then would Maya become his. Inside his mind, there was now only one thought: to make Maya his own, and to remove his brother. Outside he remained cheerful and normal, but inside his mind was becoming almost mad with restlessness. At night he sat alone by the river, thinking how to execute his plan. First he considered making it look like an accident, pushing his brother near the river, or dropping a heavy object in the cattle shed. But fear returned. What if I am caught? What if the villagers suspect me? One night in the darkness, he wrote in his diary, "Hakim always goes alone to the riverbank after sunset. If I act then, no one will know." Once the plan was formed, he spent several days quietly preparing. He examined the stones by the river, mixed mud with mud, ensured no evidence would remain. Then that night arrived. A moonless night. All around, trembling wind and the murmur of the river. Sohel had already finalized his plan. When Hakim was at the riverbank reviewing land documents, Sohel slowly came up behind him, raised a stick, and struck. Hakim tried to scream, but lost his balance and fell to the ground. Sohel struck again. This time Hakim lay still. In Sohel's eyes appeared a twisted satisfaction. Though fear remained in his chest, his plan had succeeded. His brother was no longer an obstacle. The body was sent drifting into the river. Darkness surrounded everything. Sohel stood there and whispered to himself, "Now Maya is mine. No one can stop me." Hakim's death cast a shadow of grief over the entire village. At the riverbank, a fisherman saw the body drifting and screamed in horror. The news spread quickly. Within minutes, villagers began to gather. They looked up toward the sky and whispered, "How can such a righteous man die so suddenly? How could this happen?" Maya's cries echoed through the village. She realized Hakim was truly gone. Inside her, fear continued to grow. She began to wonder, was Sohel involved in this? But she did not have the courage to tell anyone. Outwardly, Sohel showed signs of grief, but inside he felt a strange satisfaction. Rubel looked at Sohel with suspicion and thought, Sohel had gone to the river with his brother, but would anyone believe that? After the funeral, although the villagers mourned Hakim's death, curiosity and suspicion slowly increased. Some whispered, "Was it really an accident?" Others murmured, "Maybe it was murder." At night, lying in bed, Maya thought, "If he truly is involved, am I safe?" The air of the village grew heavy, mixed with fear, grief, and suspicion. Though restlessness grew inside Sohel, it was a restless joy. Hakim's death did not only bring sorrow, it planted seeds of suspicion in the villagers' hearts. Some said it was an accident, others whispered it might be murder. The news reached the police station. Experienced officer Rahimuddin arrived at the scene. He first spoke with Maya. Maya had broken down in tears. Her eyes were red and swollen. Rahim asked gently in a serious voice, "Was your husband in conflict with anyone?" Maya shook her head. "No." But then she paused. Fear shadowed her eyes. Rahim inspected the riverbank. He noticed footprints, 2 different sets, one large, one small. He thought, if it were an accident, there should be only one set. Why are there 2? He also listened to the villagers. An elderly farmer said, Hakim went to the river with Sohel. After that, no one saw them again. Rahim called Sohel. "Where were you that night?" Sohel pretended to remain calm. "My brother was showing me some documents. I returned halfway. Later I heard that he fell into the water." Rubel spoke to Rahim privately. "Officer, I saw Sohel take his brother to the river, but he says he returned halfway." The next day Sohel's clothes were examined. Mud stains were found, matching the soil of the riverbank. This became the first piece of evidence. Fear began to grow inside Sohel. Though he smiled outwardly, at night he could see his brother's screams and blood-stained images before his eyes. He began to feel his own helplessness. Maya, too, was terrified. She did not know what the police were finding, but deep inside she knew. The truth would one day come out. Sohel's mask was slowly beginning to crack. The air of the village grew suffocating. Grief, fear, and suspicion mixed together. Sohel's inner restlessness kept increasing. Though he acted normal outside, at night, he felt as if everything was under police watch. Rahimuddin continued his investigation quietly, while Rubel gathered small bits of information following his suspicions. The first proof had been the footprints at the riverbank, then the mud stains on Sohel's clothes that matched the river soil. Rahim realized something was wrong. Sohel was questioned separately. Outwardly calm, inwardly afraid, he was asked, "What happened that night by the river with your brother Hakim?" Sohel looked straight into their eyes, but his answers were carefully prepared. "My brother was showing me documents, so I returned midway." But Rahim knew. Mismatched evidence and honest eyes always revealed danger. They continued to investigate what truly happened by the river that night. Rubel stood beside the police. One by one he recalled the events. "I saw Sohel take his brother to the river. Then I saw Hakim fall into the water, motionless." Rahim silently took notes. "Are you sure, son?" Rubel nodded. "Yes, I am certain." Sohel's heart trembled in fear. Outwardly, he showed no fear, but inside he felt the warning of his own destruction. At night, Hakim's screams and blood-soaked images haunted his sleep. The next day, more evidence came into police hands. The mud-covered stick from the river bank that Sohel had used. Rahimuddin became certain. This death was not an accident. It was a planned murder. The village air began to grow hot with whispers. Some remained silent, but secretly people murmured, was Hakim's death really an accident? Or was someone involved in his murder? Sohel's head grew heavy. Inside him, fear and greed struck together. He realized there was no escape from the truth. Maya became more terrified day by day. She felt the police presence, the village whispers. At night, her heart broke in silence. Sohel slowly realized his plan was failing. The village atmosphere had already become suffocating. Grief, suspicion, and fear mixed together. Under the watch of the police and Rubel, Sohel's restlessness kept growing. He understood. As days passed, the truth would be revealed, and his mask would break. Rahimuddin gathered new evidence. The muddy stick, the footprints, and Sohel's mud-stained clothes. Combining them, he announced, "This was not an accident. It was a planned murder." The news spread through the village. People were stunned. Some said, "Who could do such a thing?" Sohel realized. Hiding was no longer possible. The darkness of night, the police presence, the village whispers, the fear in Maya's eyes, all of it slowly broke him. Rubel came forward. "Sohel, I know everything. You killed Hakim to make Maya yours." Sohel said nothing. Before his eyes, memories flashed. The stick strike, the blood-stained river water, Hakim's screams. He realized there was no escape. Maya stood silently. When their eyes met, she knew his crime was real. She did not need words. She cried out to the village, "Let this suffering end." The police arrived and arrested him. Slowly, peace returned to the village, but Maya's life would never be happy again. Sohel's greed and sin destroyed her life. In the final scene standing by the river, Maya looked up at the sky. Her tears had dried, but her heart remained deeply empty. Everything was over. But life would never be the same again. After Sohel was arrested, the police and villagers understood. No matter how deep the injustice, the truth always comes out. And after destruction, greed, and darkness, justice always wins. Sohel lost not only the woman he desired, he lost his own life. To gain his sister-in-law, he murdered the brother who raised him with love. In his lust, he lost his brother, lost Maya, and finally destroyed himself. So friends, what lesson did you learn from today's true story? Please share it in the comments. If you liked the video, comment below. And to hear more powerful stories like this, subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell icon. Until the next video, stay safe and stay well.